We are at el Museo de Arte Moderno en la Ciudad de Mexico, looking at Las Dos Fridas, or The Two Fridas by Frida Kahlo.
This is Kahlo's first large work, 68 inches by 68 inches, painted in 1939, the year of her divorce with her husband Diego Rivera, although they ended up getting back together a year later. Yikes!
Well, although we aren't in the Louvre, this painting was actually inspired by two works that Frida had viewed there a year prior, The Two Sisters by Theodore Chasserio and Gabrielle de Estrés and one of her sisters.
For some more context, there are many speculations on what this painting truly represents. Firstly, it could represent her dual heritage. Her father was German while her mother was Mexican. This also ties in with her divorce because she believed her husband only accepted her Mexican heritage. Allegedly, she herself saw it as a memory of her childhood imaginary friend.
That's right. Now let's get to know Frida Let's get to know Frida a bit better. Over her lifetime, she created about 200 works where she showed many themes of rebellion, as well as anatomy, her heritage/family history, and the harsh reality of life. This was an important new change from the norm in the 1900s.
Particularly in this piece, for women to challenge conventions of beauty and social expectations. The facial hair on herself and the indigenous attire were new for women to show at the time, along with being insubordinate in her career path.
Let's get into some formal elements. At first glance, we see the double self-portrait, two seated figures holding hands and sharing a bench with the stormy sky in the background. The women are pretty much identical except for attire.
On the left, she is wearing a white European Victorian-styled white dress, while the one on the right is wearing a
Tehuana
dress, which reverts back to her dual heritage. Each is holding an object. The left being a set of forceps and the right being a mini portrait of her husband.
If we look even closer, the viewer can observe the insides of the two being exposed and a vein tying them together, as well as their hand being grasped tightly, both showing unity.
The exposed hearts are Frida telling the viewer of her vulnerability and her emotional suffering. The heart of the figure in white is actually in further detail than the other, which is her way of depicting one being weaker than the other, possibly in the area of connection to culture.
I think that the heart of Frida on the right is also shown as stronger due to it being the strength of her love for her husband and how she still pines for him.
This connects back to the interest in anatomy in her art. Would you care to dive deeper into that concept?
Yes, of course. I would love to dive deeper. She had a complicated history with medical issues, including contracting polio in her childhood, which ended up deforming her right leg, and a bus accident when she was 18, which left her disabled and infertile.
Right, and that has something to do with the reason why they were sitting. The frequent bed rest due to her operation stemming from the accident.
Those forceps that we pointed out earlier are cutting the vein that connects them, and the fact that those bloody ties are used in some of her other artworks like My Grandparents, My Parents, and I. How interesting. What do you think about that?
I think that one could interpret that as cutting ties with her other side of herself because of her husband, especially when you notice the blood pooling on her white dress.
I would have to agree with that. So to conclude, tell me if I get this wrong. The audience was herself, the function was to challenge ideas of mixed heritage and feminine expression and be an outlet piece during her separation, and the importance to history was representing a mix of cultures from personal perspective, particularly because she was a female artist.
Yep, that all sounds right to me.
Well, I think that's it. Thanks for watching.
Wait, I actually made my own rendition because it spoke to me so much. And I have it displayed in your room.
Oh. It is fantastic!